Do pharmaceutical companies want to find cures for diseases? It's an important question because I don't think they do. In fact, I think there's compelling evidence that there is almost no desire amongst pharmaceutical companies to now find a cure to almost any known medical problem. And the reason why is quite simple and it's quite straightforward. Finding a cure to a disease cuts off the future income stream of the pharmaceutical company from managing the condition in question. So, for example, if you find an effective vaccine that destroys the chance of some illness spreading, what you will actually do is kill your future profits, because you'll sell a lot of your vaccine in the short term, and then there will be nobody to spread that disease because they've been cured of it, as a consequence of which the spread of the disease will plummet, and you won't sell any more vaccine because it won't be necessary, because there will be nobody who needs to be treated for it. This is the reality of how it is in the pharmaceutical industry. If you do something really well, and you actually eliminate a cause of harm created by a medical condition, then by and large, there is no future profit for you. If, however, you come up with a method to manage a condition, you're in the money from now until time immemorial. And let me give you a simple example of that. The management of type 2 diabetes is incredibly profitable for the pharmaceutical industry. So of course they want nothing done about ultra-processed food. In fact, they will lobby extensively against any measure that might reduce the chance that somebody will eat vast quantities of excess glucose, which will lead to the production of excess insulin in their body, which will then be treated by the injection of more insulin into their bodies as a consequence of the management of type 2 diabetes, as a result of which they will from there on be chronically ill, requiring medicine after medicine for the rest of their life, from which the pharmaceutical industry will make a lot of money. And that's also true, of course, of obesity. Does the pharmaceutical industry want to cure obesity? Is it even a condition that requires a cure? Because we know what the cure is. That is, reduce the amount of sugar input into people's lives through carbohydrates and other means. But that isn't, again, what the pharmaceutical industry wants, because they want people to have managed obesity. Hence the whole thing about Ozempic and Wegovy. Those drugs are not about solving the problem of obesity. They are simply about managing it. And we're already hearing calls, even though these drugs are only just coming into use, for them to be prescribed for life. And they're not cheap, and they will be used by a lot of people, and they will absorb an enormous amount of the health budget. So, what is the motive of the pharmaceutical industry? It quite clearly is not to make us better. It is to actually keep us ill. And that is bizarre. We think of all these people walking around in white coats who politicians want to stand next to as people who are doing good work. But by and large, they're actually just there to leave us in our current state of ill health. Managed for a very long time, but not necessarily with us being better. And in fact, that's an incredibly important point to make. Because whilst life expectancies have overall got longer, with a little bit of a blip at present, well-being as a proportion of total life expectancy has gone down. People are now ill for longer at the end of their lives. And that is worrying, because it suggests there's something deeply wrong inside what we are absorbing, because as genetic people, we haven't changed significantly, and therefore the agent for change, which means that we are sicker for longer towards the end of our lives, must be an external factor, which is the food we eat almost certainly. But medicine is not solving that. It's just containing that. And I believe we have therefore got our whole attitude towards the pharmaceutical industry, its motives, and what it needs to do for us completely wrong. We need to have government to stand up to pharmaceuticals and say, We want cures. We want to find solutions. We want to take this problem out at source, not manage it once it's arisen. That is what good management would in fact look like. Inside the health service, the answer is obvious. You could go and have a look at a couple of programs that were broadcast recently on Channel 4 in the UK. The glucose goddess, I can't remember her real name, sorry, but I know that that's what she calls herself, did a couple of programs where she looked at removing glucose from people's diets to treat common conditions that they were suffering from. Acne, obesity, and things like that. And by simply controlling the amount of sugar that was absorbed by people, their health was dramatically improved. Those who were suffering diabetes were in fact cured. And that's entirely possible. Type 2 diabetes is a completely curable disease. But not if you believe what the pharmaceutical industry says, because they don't want it to be cured, because that would remove their opportunity for profit. We need to change our attitude to medicine, in other words. We should not now be looking for conditions to be managed. We should be looking for cures. And that's a totally different issue when it comes to medical management of the human condition. But it's not good for the profits of pharmaceutical companies. And I don't care, because I'm interested in well-being and not profits. And the pharmaceutical companies have their interests the other way round. They want profits and not well-being, which is why we have to question the answers that they come up with.